was building on the lecture. Verses coming daily under pressure. Working on the plot and the scheme. The true stock trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking one shot for the kill. The breeze cut, freeze up, straight dropping the chills. I'm talking taking over pieces and shares. A bomb break sky high. Check the movement is here. Yeah. It's one heart, one shot. Now the future is yours. Go. I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. Your memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. You put the bars in the brakes. I'm talking one.
Hello. On behalf of the Cal Alumni Association, I'd like to welcome you to the Who Are We Now discussion series. My name is Maria Smith, born and raised in Houston, Texas. I am a former student athlete at UC Berkeley and the creator of the Who Are We Now concept. I graduated in the fall of 2019 with a degree in legal studies and currently work in the Bay Area. Today, we are going to begin to unpack the question of who are we now? This discussion will focus on the perspectives of current and former Black student athletes as they share their truths concerning their individual journeys of self-discovery. We will talk about how navigating the recent developments of the world has influenced their unique processes. It is my hope that people can relate to and be encouraged by these real, honest conversations. Thank you for tuning in. With that, I would like to introduce Joe Spano, who will be facilitating our discussion today. Joe is an Emmy Award winner who has played Tobias Fornell on the television show NCIS for 17 years. He was also Lieutenant Henry Goldblum on the series Hill Street Blues. Joe graduated from Berkeley in '67 and majored in theater arts.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks for that. And I also like to thank Chloe Hewlett, who is the executive director of the Alumni Association at UC, for giving me the opportunity to come into this discussion, this really important discussion at this time in our history. We have 4 student athletes who have been student athletes at UC. Some still are, Elijah still is, but others have moved on. So this is Elijah Hicks, Jordan Veasy, Maria Smith, and Isabella Marten, and they're going to introduce themselves to you. So Maria, you've already introduced yourself, so thank you for coming up with this concept, which is a question we're all asking ourselves. I think if we have any heart and any mind right now is, who are we now? And it's important that we talk and find out who we are. Jordan Veasy, welcome, and tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan Veasy. I am a native of Gaston, Alabama, and a former Cal football player in years 2016 and 17. I currently play now professionally in the NFL for the Washington Redskins, and I am a graduate and an alumni of Berkeley. In 2018, I graduated with a degree in American Studies. So happy to be here and happy to discuss some great topics that are very relevant to us all right now, and just to share this panel with some of my former classmates and teammates.
Thanks, Jordan. Elijah Hicks, who are you now?
Hey, yeah, I'm Elijah Hicks. I'm graduating at the end of 2020. I'm an American Studies major as well. I'm from Long Beach, California, inner city, and I'm just thankful to be able to be on this call and share some of my views and how these difficult times has shaped me and will shape me going forward.
Thanks, Elijah. And Isabella Marten.
Hi, I'm Isabella Marten. I just graduated this May with a master's in strategic public relations from USC. But I was actually born in Stuttgart, Germany, and I first moved to the US in 2014 to complete my undergraduate degree at UC Berkeley. And there I studied media studies and finished in 2018. And I was also a track and field athlete at Cal and at USC. And there I scored as a Pac-12 champion twice in 2016 and 2017.
Thanks, Isabella. So we're going to dive right in. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is you are all Black student athletes, of course, and then that means something about what your experience is. What is your point of view? What has been your experience? And how has that experience, being a Black student athlete at Cal specifically, how has that shaped your perspective and your sense of identity? Anybody have any insight as to?
Well, I could go first. Coming from the inner city in Long Beach, California, coming to Cal, it was kind of like a reality shock in the sense of like, there's not that many people that look like me. And so when I got there, I quickly wanted to make sure I was a great representation of Black student athletes as well as people who come from Long Beach, California. And so it just made me make sure, like, I want to be someone who gets good grades, who dominate on the football field, and kind of carry himself the right way, because people have these stereotypes of how people like me usually act, or how we assume how smart we are or how we think. And so I just wanted to make sure I represent the Black student athletes and people where I'm from, that, what you're thinking may not be right. And I'm going to show in a positive light of how, Black student athletes are. And at Cal, it's a perfect place to be able to represent Black student athletes at, all schools.
Have you been surprised by people's response to your presenting yourself in the way that you do?
Yeah, well, Berkeley and the Bay Area is really progressive in the sense that it's not as bad as, in the South and where Veasy's from in Alabama. It's definitely not that bad. But at the same time, yes, like when they see me forming my own nonprofit, or, being the Scholar Athlete of the Year on the football team, and, it is a surprise. And it's like, they're like, wow, I'm so proud of you. And I take it, I thank them for it, but at the same time, it comes off as like a sense of surprise. And it's like, I'm not really surprised. My family not really surprised, because this is what I've always had good grades. I've always excelled in school and these types of things. So it's not, yeah, it's just something to think about. It's something I've noticed, and it's like, I just want to change the narrative.
Yeah. And you chose UC specifically, didn't you?
Yeah, I chose UC Berkeley. I was fortunate enough to have scholarships at USC, UCLA, and Notre Dame, all over the country. And but Berkeley, I'm glad I made this decision. Great.
Isabella, how about you? Well, how did it feel to be a Black student athlete at UC specifically? But you've been to two other universities as well.
I have. So for me, I have to say, I had a unique experience because I am biracial. I'm half white and half Black. So for me, the stigmatization may have not been comparable to if I was full Black, how that would have been. But I also think women aren't as stigmatized in that realm as men, from what I've seen. But I definitely learned about being Black when I came to America and when I came to college. I never really had to face that kind of question. I never really felt the color of my skin as much as when I moved to the United States. And the same negative stigma that Elijah was talking about, I did fear as well. I didn't like wearing my athletic gear to the classroom. I didn't want to be known as a student athlete, because at Cal specifically, the academics are just held to such a high standard. And if you are on a scholarship and you're an athlete, oftentimes you're put in a box where people think you got into the school solely because of the athletics, and then they don't see really what you can bring to the table academically. And that's why I personally felt fearful to show that I was an athlete in many classrooms. I dressed normally, and I didn't want to show that until I had to bring that travel letter and show the professor, hey, I'm going to be missing a few times. But I didn't initially. I never wanted to have that be the first impression. And yeah. I think that's a little bit problematic, that we have to fear that as athletes. in certain settings.
Jordan, how about you?
Just to kind of piggyback off what Elijah said earlier, it was being a guy from Alabama, and I had a different route as far as when I came to Berkeley. I was actually a junior college guy, so I had my first just taste of California in the Southern California area, and then not knowing too much about the Northern California area, being a guy from Alabama, and then going to experience in Berkeley, it was definitely a culture shock. It's like Elijah was saying, it's a very different place. And I feel like in a good way, it was very positive for me to be able to go into a place, being from Alabama, and then going to a Northern California place that is very progressive. It was like its own bubble. So, you know, you have so many people, it's like a big, huge melting pot. And so you don't see a lot of people who look like you. And necessarily don't see a lot of people who kind of dominate the majority as well. You see a mixture of everyone. And I think that was beneficial to me, being a guy from Alabama who was used to seeing just maybe Black, white, Mexicans. You know, I didn't really know too many people of other races, and just being around them in a day-to-day basis kind of thing. So being able to be in Berkeley kind of gave me a different perspective and a more of a conjointness to be able to just kind of merge with different cultures, see how other people think, how they go about it, you know, how they go about being and going about the UC Berkeley experience and learning things in it. And I think it was able to kind of help me be able to transition into other spaces, because now being a professional, I am in a business where I am with a lot of different people of different cultures. You know, we have different coaches who are from different races and stuff like that. So being able to kind of conjoin in a place in a bubble and be able to immerse yourself in it and be able to operate and function in it. I think Berkeley kind of helped me with that, being a Black man, just being able to relate to others, and also just, you know, going about day-to-day life. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, just being a Black student athlete, was kind of learning how to, you know, immerse myself with different people of different cultures, and learning how to kind of go about that and coerce my way through the college experience.
Where was it you played before Cal?
I actually played Golden West Community College. It's in Southern California. It's in Huntington Beach, down in Orange County. So that was a great time as well. That was big for me, coming from Alabama too, going all the way to Orange County, which, if anybody knows the name, Orange County is it's a pretty good place as far as to be and just playing football. So that was cool for me, just to get those different experiences from being a guy from Gaston, Alabama, and just going out and seeing that side of the world when I had never even been on a plane before until I went. So it was all good to be able to have that culture kind of to be immersed in me, and that be a part of me from here on out. So yeah.
And you were raised, and you were born and raised in a part of the country where your family's been for a long, long time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and just being me, I think I'm the only one who's ever even went out and lived in California. I think most of my family is in the Southern area. I don't have any family members who are on the West Coast or even up Northern East Coast. So being able to venture out and have that be a part of me now and be molded and shaped by those things, it was huge for me, and just who I am today and now and going forward. So yeah.
And it's a gift to us to have you come and bring that ethos, that place to us. And I just want to put that in. There's a lot happening these days, as we all know. The first thing I want to talk about is the pandemic, COVID-19. How has this changed your experience, both as students and as athletes and as human beings and as citizens of the United States and the world? How has it impacted you in a visceral way, in a real way? Anybody can just, speak up here.
I would say, with me personally, COVID is it's kind of helped me be myself even a little bit more than anything, because I am used to being by myself and training on my own and doing things on my own. So COVID at first wasn't a big shock for me, because being able just to go about and do what I need to do, I've always kind of been a lone wolf initiative with it. So it was, the challenges that presented in itself were a little bit harder because of the resources that weren't there anymore and having to adapt in that sense. But I feel like with COVID and just the challenges that it brought on everyone, it was just kind of helping us to be able to be better at adapting. And I feel like the better you are at being able to adapt to the circumstances and the situation that you inhibit, the better you're going to be going forward in life. And so I think those are one of the many challenges that it presented that I was able to get better at, and just being able to adapt. And it also just gave me a better clarity on reflection of who I am and what I love to do. And it kind of amplified that for me and understanding that why I do what I do and why I love to do what I do. Because, once you get to a point when you get to so many barrels and so many obstacles that you have to overcome, it's going to be a point in time where your passion for something is going to it's going to mean so much more for you to be able to keep going forward in whatever you're doing.
You were more focused on
And because
what you did, what was important to you, rather than partying or being around. You don't miss these situations where COVID passes because you weren't doing that in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then even in not just with the party, just anything, I think it was able to just have a better understanding of yourself, and also being around the people that you love more, just spending more time with your family and your friends. I think that was huge for me too. And just being able to kind of just being a guy who, for most of the majority of my life and just in my adult life, I have been away from my family. I've been on my own. I'm the only one who's ever been outside of Alabama and lived there. So I'm used to kind of being on my own already. So being able to come back home and being in these settings and being able to kind of be confined with my family and friends was really, really big for me. And just being able to kind of get back to what I was used to as far as being a guy growing up as an adolescent and being from my hometown. And so I think that was huge for me, just being able to kind of be back around my support system and get back to knowing what that feels like instead of being on my own so much. And it was so many challenges that were challenges that ended up being positives for me and just helped me to kind of keep going forward. And I think it was also just for a great opportunity for those who are who do love what they do and are able to kind of jolt themselves forward and gain, progressive improvement, as to where some who may not be, necessarily as passionate or love what they do as much, it could be a downhill thing for them. So it goes hand in hand, as to each his own. But I think for me personally, all the challenges that it inhibited and that were a part of it, it kind of was positive and helped me to gain more. I came out a better person because of COVID. So yeah.
I want to come back and ask you a question about what you just said, but let's ask Elijah or Bella that same question, the COVID question.
Yeah, okay, I could go. It challenged me a lot because, I never went back home. I'm currently in UC Berkeley. I've been in UC Berkeley since it started. And even since I've been in college, I haven't really been going back and forth home a lot. My parents, they usually come up here for games and I'll see them then. But I kind of created a strong bond with my teammates and my housemates that I lived with. And, they obviously went back with their family. So it was a time for me to get used to being by myself and learning how to deal with that. Like Veasy, I'm not really used to going out too much. I'm usually a homebody, hanging out with friends and stuff, but it still forced me to tap into things to help my mental health, as far as meditating, reading. I bought a piano keyboard, trying to learn how to keep myself busy doing that. But at the same time, it like Veasy said, it made me appreciate football a lot more because during the days, I just had an urge to play football and go work out. And at first, it was really difficult because, I couldn't go back to the facilities and lift and train. So I had to get really creative and find different hills or find different high schools that I could go to. And while being safe, obviously, I'm by myself. So it wasn't like I was in the risk of getting sick or anything, but finding ways to work out. And eventually I created a schedule for myself, and it started to help me, get through these days, and it started to make the days go by faster, but at the same time, I still became more productive. Because, while we're in school, they have everything set. I mean, as far as what time we need to eat, what time we need to lift, what time we only can have classes between this certain time frame. So now it was like the first time where I make my schedule from the beginning to the end of the day, and I'm trying to figure out what I need to do, what I want to accomplish. And so I think it's like Veasy said, I've learned a lot out of this, and I'm kind of thankful for it.
It's just great hearing the positive aspects of this change of life. Bella, how about you?
Yeah, I'm the opposite of Jordan. I'm not a lone wolf at all. So for me, it was pretty challenging because I, since I moved to the U.S., my family is in Germany, and my sister lives in Virginia actually, and I wasn't able to see my family during this time, and it was pretty scary at first to be so far away when something so drastic is happening, and you don't know if they get sick. Will you ever see them again? So there are a lot of worries about being on the other side of the world, and that was just stressful for me in the beginning. But I also took this timeout phase as a learning opportunity to really practice self-care. Same as Elijah, I meditated more. I just made my own schedule. I journaled every day. So that was big for me. I didn't do that before. Throughout the pandemic, I did that. And I also started feeling me being international more than ever. I was really constantly looking at immigration laws, if anything's changed, and the borders being closed. My parents were supposed to come to my graduation and visit me. That didn't happen. So it was a lot of bittersweet, not being able to enjoy that and celebrate that with my family. But the online class experience for me was pretty beneficial. I didn't have to spend a lot of money on Ubers to go to USC anymore. Everything was really practical. So that was great. But otherwise, yeah, I did feel the most alone I've ever felt, but I think that was super necessary. And I'm glad to have learned that so early in my early years, to learn what that's like and how to practice a healthy routine and to keep your mental health strong during such a drastic time of change and uncertainty. So I'm grateful for it as well.
So you had some positive responses to the situation as well as Jordan and Elijah. Um, Jordan, you were talking about being in a bubble because of where you came from and not ever having been out of the state before. That's really interesting to me. Was that? But you had a strong regimen and a strong thing to do. And but what was that like? What was that to you? Did you feel apart from folks, or just like seeing it from a different lens?
I would say both. It's kind of hand in hand. Both perspectives came into play, and then it was really good to take what made me who I was and be able to merge it with who others were and kind of adapting to that culture. I've been blessed to be able to inhabit a lot of places just in my just growing and me becoming a man. And so all of those places are now a part of me and who I am. And I can be able to go home and talk to a guy I've known my whole life, but also have friends and family who are dear to me, like my former teammates, like Elijah, I've been around Elijah and his family, I've talked to them. I know how his people are and how they think and just their culture and growing up and how he's grown up. I can see the similarities and also see the differences and kind of merge the both. And it's a great thing to be able to have that, just those perspectives from both sides, being a guy from Alabama, then knowing how life is for a young kid growing up in the inner cities of Long Beach, and knowing how we have some similarities and what the differences are as well. And just, I think being able to come into both spaces, emerge and have both of that as like that experiential knowledge, I think that's huge. And just because just being able to relate to others and being personable and being able to understand others and their plight and what they go through and maybe what they face and the challenges that they have, and being able to help others, you know what I'm saying? Guys who are from Alabama like me, who may venture out to California one day, who may have a hard time adjusting, or guys who are from California who come to the South, who may have a hard time adjusting. And if I can be that, that vessel and that symbol to be used to help them in, kind of making their journey a little bit easier, I can have that because I've been blessed to have that perspective of both sides and know what that means and kind of know what both ends of the spectrum feel like. So I would say it's a merging thing. It's a little bit of both. And I think it's a blessing in just having that, being able to have both perspectives of things and just having that experiential knowledge. I would say, I think it's huge. Just being culture, I think is something that I've been blessed to have and just be a part of me to be able to go forward and help others in their journeys.
I think it's really important for us to hear, and people who are watching us, that it's not just one culture. I mean, I think maybe people have a tendency to say it's one culture. And just like any other group of people, cultures are different wherever they come from, how they were raised, what their parents were like, and it's not homogeneous. Any of Elijah, I want to ask you, I want to get you to get a chance to talk about your foundation a little bit.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Intercept Poverty Foundation is something I created to help college students overcome financial roadblocks. As we all know, college is super expensive, and I'm fortunate enough to be on scholarship, but I have 10 siblings, and four of them that are in college, and they are not on scholarship. So I know the struggle that they go through, and oftentimes I have to, not have to, but I like to send them money to help them out. And so it just made me think, like, what are these other students going through that may have similar upbringings as I do? And so I wanted to create something that could help. During this COVID-19 pandemic, I created a fundraiser to help, families that come from low income and used to rely on those free reduced lunch at the public schools. I was fortunate enough to get some teammates involved, and some other Pac-12 players as well. We raised over $60,000, and so I'm really thankful for that. That helped a lot of families, and so this upcoming semester, I'm going to be trying to give out, some emergency relief funds. So, like, if people need to get an emergency loan out, well, instead of getting a loan and having to pay that back, you could sign up for, Intercept Poverty relief, and we'll be able to help you with $400, $500, depending on whatever your circumstance is and what you need. So that's some stuff I'm working on. But during this pandemic, it made me realize what I really like to do as well. And it actually really makes me feel good to be able to help others. And I'm lucky enough to have a lot of people help me get to this position, because I had a rough upbringing, but a lot of people helped me get to this platform. And so that's what I'm liking to do.
How do people connect with your foundation?
InterceptPovertyFoundation.com. That's where you could check it out, see what we're doing. You can also donate there. Yeah, I'm just so happy I'm in this position and have a level of influence to be able to help.
Yeah. I'd like to ask you guys a question about the other thing happening right now, amongst many other things, is the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm using Black Lives Matter movement because that seems to be the biggest rubric around, that we all know what that means, although there are many different people doing different things, and there's a lot of different opinions about how to respond to what I'm going to call systemic racism. And maybe we can just talk about that. What that means to you. Is it something that's real? Is it something that you faced? Is the reaction to what's going on now something that you have something to say about? Basically, I don't want to lead anybody, but just what's going on with that, and you. And I won't pick any person, just whoever wants to speak up.
Yeah, I personally, I thought it was beautiful to see, especially me with my international background, to see this being a topic that was picked up all around the world, and that people felt so strongly about this. And I think that was a part for me that felt almost like I felt more connected again, even though I felt so lonely throughout the pandemic. With the Black Lives Matter movement being at a peak again, I thought it was such a beautiful thing to be so connected again through social media, and to finally be heard more than ever, because people just had the time to be on their computers, be on Instagram, and the message was just being distributed over and over. And it was so important to see, for me, all my white friends being willing to listen and educating themselves and asking me questions that they usually feel uncomfortable to ask. And I personally I sometimes feel like I'm on the fence, being half white and Black. Sometimes I overhear conversations that make me feel uncomfortable from my more ignorant white friends. And then also sometimes with my Black friends, I hear conversations that are really derogatory against white people. And there's a lot of tension. And sometimes I don't really know where I belong. And I thought in this time, I found my voice as a Black woman. And I was really proud to be Black in this and being able to voice my opinion and educating others. And I felt more compelled to now call people out when they say something that I don't think is appropriate. Before, I often was more so shy because I felt like it wasn't really my place, but this was a wake-up call for me to be more outspoken and to notice this is my place and this is everybody's place to speak up and do better. And I thought it was an amazing starting point.
Great. Yeah. Guys?
Yeah, or I'll go next. Police brutality has been an issue since police been around. This topic makes me really emotional. When all this stuff started going down, it had me really angry and frustrated, and I think it's because I'm so fortunate to be at Cal and be at UC Berkeley and have a position like Jordan to be in the NFL. But it also makes me realize, like, if I didn't have as much help as I did, if I didn't have as good as parents as I did, like, where I can be. And, we saw a lot of people looting and breaking into stores and doing, they was just expressing the pain and their emotion that they had. And, myself, I didn't feel comfortable going out there and doing those things because obviously it's not the best thing to go about it, but best way to go about it. But at the same time, I feel those people because it's just so much anger and frustration to where you don't know what to do. And so breaking that down to, my white friends or even my coach and my coaches and letting them understand, like, hey, these Black people who are you see out here doing these things. One, it wasn't always Black people starting these violent protests and stuff, but the ones you do see doing it, those are people just like me who, are just fed up and tired and don't have a certain way to express themselves. And who's to say if I wasn't at this stage that I wouldn't be back doing the same thing that they're doing, because I come from that environment. But, I've been lucky enough to get to this point, but it also makes me, because I still have brothers and sisters and family who's back in Long Beach, and I have a brother who's been in and out of jail. And so, and it just makes me feel a certain type of way when this issue continues to come up and you continue to see stuff on the news of Blacks being attacked and seeing people not necessarily listening and caring. But at the same time, this movement has been a lot different since, like Bella said, like COVID-19 and this George Floyd's death has kind of been like a perfect combination of people being able to see what's actually going on, and it's forcing people to speak up, and it's forcing companies and a lot of white people to, kind of understand and feel for the Black people more than ever. I've seen a lot of people stand up for African Americans that I've never seen before. It's been more unity than ever. It's still a lot way to go, but I think it's certainly making some strides to make some changes.
Right. Jordan?
Yeah, I agree with both. And I think just being someone, I've been subjected to over excessive police force. I've had those experiences as a Black man. It's just, I was thinking to myself recently, I turned 25 on the 23rd of June, and I was in the Black community. That's something that's celebratory for Black men, which is sad in a sense because they say once you turn 25, you become an OG. That's what we say. So you're lucky to see 25 as a Black man growing up in America, because you could either be dead or in jail by 25, but that's what the statistics say. And I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, that's crazy. You know, that's a truth that we are kind of inhibited to. You know, some, it may just go over the shoulder of many, but to a lot of people that means something to a Black man, to be able to turn to the age of 25 and not be either dead or incarcerated. And so being able to think about that, especially with the climate of everything that was going on, and during that time with me turning 25, it was a really big eye opener just to see, just kind of piggyback off what Elijah said, to see, you know, how blessed I am to be who I am, and to have had the journey that I've had to be a Black man who grew up in the Deep South and has had a lot of experiences with systematic racism and just racism in general. And just to see 25 and also be a UC Berkeley graduate and be in the NFL and living my dream, I think it's a huge blessing. And then also it was conflicting for me as well, just the whole thing, just because I have been subjected to racism, systematic racism, police, over excessive police force and these things. But I also was a young man who was raised in a good middle-class neighborhood, and I was raised by people of different cultures. My best friend growing up was white. My second mom and father are white. You know, these are people that I look at as a part of my family. And I know a lot of white people who have supported me and helped me along my way, that I could never subject a whole race and a whole class of people to, you know, one thing. And so it's a conflicting thing as well, given when you've grown up and you know white individuals who are very, very good people and aren't racist. So it's, but it was also very good to see just the voices, like Elijah and Isabella said, just to be able to see everyone speak up and being able to kind of see the truth and things. And I think that's huge. And just being able to have that truth kind of, in a sense, literally like forced down your throat, because when it's happening and you're all just sitting and it's COVID, you can't go anywhere and it's going around, and all you can do really is watch and see the news every day, and all you're seeing is Black people being killed by police and getting away with it. And so it's kind of like that truth was just put in your face, and you had to digest it and take it for what it actually was. It was no more beating around the bush or going around it. And I think that's, in order for us to, as a human race, to go forward, I think that's something that has to be done. You know, the truth has to be digested and has to be taken and accepted, because that's the only way you're going to go forward from it. And so being able to have that, you know, combination of the COVID and with the current crises with Black men being killed by police in America, and just being able to have everyone see the truth. And I think it was huge for seeing everyone speak out, and also seeing those who didn't. You know, you have to take it for what it is during these times, and just being able to understand that allyship, it can't be, you can't really necessarily stand on the fence any longer. That won't be accepted going forward. And I think in order for us as just a human race to go forward, all of these things have to come to the light, because you can't just, everything that's done in dark will come to the light. And in order to go forward, you have to be able to accept the truth for what it is, and then, you know, be progressive and going forward and making it better. So I think it's just been you know, things that happen aren't always the best things, but you know, it's always darkest before dawn, and things happen. And so in order to go forward, sometimes things have to happen. And just to be able to see us as a community, as Black people, to be able to have our voices heard right now, and just me having a platform, Elijah having a platform, Isabella having a platform, sorry, I keep saying your name wrong, but just to have that and being able to go forward, I think it's been great to see. And just being able to have our camaraderie, people of different races come and be alongside of us. I think that's been huge too as well, just to see them lift their voices as well and fight with us. I think that's been great to see. So
it makes me want to ask you a question. And it's a hard question. I don't even know how to ask it, but what do you think? You've talked about the people, your second mother and father. What made the other people, you know, who are not racist, who don't do this, who have a wider, and, you know, who just are more human than, what do you think makes them that way? Not what differentiates them, but is it education? Is it heart? What is it that makes people not be that way?
I would have to say love, and receiving that love. And once you receive love and know what it is, you can give it to others. And that's the only thing that can drive out those things. And just being able to understand that the same love I got from my Black mother and father when I was here and home with them, I could go across the street and it was the same. It didn't matter the color.
Mm.
And that was the only thing that was, the common factor is that they loved me just as much as they loved their own son. And so I think that just goes back to anything that we go through. Hatred is something that it can drive out a lot of things, and it can push you to a lot of things. And love is the only thing that can kind of overcome, and well, not kind of, but that can overcome and conquer those things. And I think that's what I was able to have that. So I could never subject everyone to that, because I know there are people out there who do, love Black people, who love their own son just as they would another person of a different color or race. So that would be my answer to that, Joe.
Yeah, I hear that. Either of you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I personally, I also think it's having a personal connection to the matter. So if you grow up in a neighborhood where you're never exposed to someone who's Black, and then you only see what the media portrays, then you don't form your own opinion, and you're not really critically thinking. And I think we just need to create an environment in which we all get to experience one another without having those preconceived notions, and really get to know each other. And the media has to do a better job at portraying a better picture and a wider variety of what it means to be Black. What does it mean to be LGBTQ? So we don't have those stereotypes anymore, and that we actually are representing a more realistic picture, and not only a negative or distorted version of what it could mean to be Black. So I think that the media plays a huge role in having that personal experience and connection with someone that you consider other.
Yeah, and for me, I lived with two white families during my high school career. So and they love me to death, and I still love them to this day. And like both of you guys say, I think a lot of it just has to do with love. Like they just love me. They love me like I was their child, and that's the only thing I could see is different. I mean, of course, there's some things that they don't completely understand, but at the same time, they treated me like I was one of their own. And through that process, I mean, they learned a lot about Black culture as well, because it's not that they necessarily, like a lot of people aren't necessarily racist, they just not educated on how things are. And so, they're not going to really teach you about it. It's like you kind of have to go out and learn about it.
Yeah. So do you guys feel some hope from what's happening now, more so than maybe the past, or do you think it's more of the same?
Yeah, I do. I think just because of just human evolution in general, just being millennials, and this will soon be the people who are older and have to carry the next generation. And I just think that time heals all, and as things happen, I think I didn't grow up in the civil rights movement or when racism was at its height. I've experienced racism, and I've experienced systematic racism, but I've also experienced knowing what it feels like to have a white best friend or a Mexican best friend, and all of these people of other different races. And soon, we'll be the leaders of, the world. And so just going forward, I think, I think there is a lot of hope, because, I think racism and just hatred are things that are taught. And I don't think, just as far as me and my experience of knowing me and people of my age group, I just feel like as progressive and as, who we are as people, I don't think that's kind of our MO. So I feel like there is hope. Yeah, I agree. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say, I don't know, civil rights movement, free speech. I just want to tell you guys that I was out on the in front of Sproul Plaza when we surrounded that police car, and Mario Savio got on top and made these great speeches. So that's
so cool.
I agree. You guys are talking about meditation a little bit, so I'd like to investigate a little bit how much spirituality, religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. We all try to, I suppose, in the most broad sense, how do we deal with the unknown in some sort of loving way? We already said that. So does that have a lot to do with the way you look at the world and you make your way through the world?
Yeah, I'll go first. For me personally, it's everything. And being a kid from the South, I grew up in the Bible Belt. So I grew up in the church early. And even with that, I would say just having a faith and being a spiritual person is something that comes to you personally. You don't necessarily have to find it in the confines of a church building, you know, what you believe in and what you go forward in. I think it comes to you personally, and you always understand it because that's your personal relationship. And I think just me and everything that I am as a man and how I go about my daily life, how I treat others, how I think about myself, and just being able to go forward. My spirituality and my faith is huge. It's everything that I am. Just being a servant first and looking to be a man who can help my community, who can help others around me. That's who I am, and that's who I am to my truest sense, because that's who I love to be. And just being able to find that and see that, you know, it's an ongoing process. It's an up and down thing, and it's the things that you know, it's kind of trial and error, you know, because as you grow, you don't know everything. You learn and you live and you grow and you keep going forward, and then you gain more and more intel about yourself and about the world that you inhabit, and you get better as you go. So, but I would say as far as spirituality and my growth and my faith, it's huge. And I wouldn't be with me without it, because that's what I truly identify with. I'm a man of God first, and then I go forward with everything else second. And just being able to have that, it was great to hear Isabella and Elijah talk about meditation and journaling and stuff like that. It's crazy, but not to brag or say anything, but I've been journaling and meditating for a long time. Probably I have countless amounts of books that I journal every day of my life, just since I can't remember back when, but it's something that I really enjoy to do. I do a lot of other things. I love float tanks and stuff like that. It's sensory deprivation tanks. So basically you get in these tanks for hours and you can just sit and you can think and you meditate. So I've gotten really good at meditation, just being real chilled out and just kind of being okay with being alone with my thoughts. And just being able to see them be in the beginning stages of theirs and growing with it. That's where it all starts. And a lot of people don't understand that the hardest part is actually beginning and starting it. So just to see them kind of beginning their journey with it and seeing how, like I just said a minute ago, how as you progress, you grow through it, it'll continue to grow and they'll continue to learn, and they'll see how much they get better at and how much it'll help them just being able to sit and be in your own thoughts and think things through, and you know, not necessarily be so anxious to everything and then things throw you to and fro, but just kind of embracing it and being able to sit in that space and be still, I think is huge for anyone. And just because we live in a very fast-paced, crazy world, so you got to have a balance, you know, and being able to have that balance and being able to be still and knowing when to move and when not to, I think it helps you to just kind of keep that flow, because it's always going to be this. It's always going to be up and down. You just got to learn how to go straight and go and just go with the flow and just, you know, kind of go through it. So yeah, I think it's huge for me personally. And I think just going forward, I think that's what helps me to kind of just be able to inhibit the world that I live in and kind of coerce and know how to move about it. It's my spirituality and my faith in God. So yeah.
Right.
I'm not particularly any one religion. I think if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, I don't think one's going to go to hell and the other's going to go to heaven, because I think there's good people no matter what you are. I think the main thing about it is like being a good person and taking some time out for yourself and learning to grow and do these things to help you cope with your mental health. I do pray. I believe in the higher power for sure. Help me get to where I am and do everything that I'm doing. But like Jordan and Bella say, I'm deep into the meditation. I'm also, so during the quarantine, I started journaling and I did it for 30 days straight. And it made me feel so good, because I'd just be having so much on my mind and stuff. And it allowed me to like just express my thoughts. And I'll kind of just wherever my mind took me, I was just writing it down. And that was really cool. But I stopped when it started to feel like homework, because then it was like some extra stuff that was like, it kind of started to feel like a burden. So I stopped a little bit, but now I'm back on it and doing it as making sure it's like something that helps me and help me, you know, clear my mind instead of like being a burden and something extra I have to do. I didn't want to create that homework relationship with it, but yeah, I believe in the higher power, and I'm very thankful for my position I'm in.
Yeah. For me, spirituality is also has become a big part of who I am today. And it hasn't always been. So when I grew up, I was never in church. I grew up Catholic, but I never practiced my faith, and I came to that on my own, and now it's become everything for me. And even the journaling, for me, it's more so it's self-help. It's like therapy with myself, and sitting with myself and my thoughts, and being able to process everything and writing that down helps so much with personal growth. But also, I think the pandemic made me really understand what my ego was, and like that the external things that in life, going to a fancy restaurant or going shopping and just indulging in all that external that we usually are so indulged with. I think it helped me to understand that we need to work more on ourselves instead of on everything external, and that we need to look inward. And that's for me where spirituality comes in place. That's where we have to listen to our inner thoughts, to our intuition, and what can we give, kind of what Jordan was saying, being able to be a servant. That's so important during times like this. What can we do for others? How can we help? Whether it's just wearing a mask and protecting others, older people not getting sick. It's just a time where we learn to be selfless. And yes, we may all want to mingle and be social, but no, we need to think of the greater good and society as a whole. And I think that's all spirituality, being, as Elijah said, being a good person and being mindful and considerate. I think that this time taught us so much about that. And even if maybe people don't want to acknowledge that there is a higher power or source energy, what I like to call it, I think we all notice that we are interconnected and that we all matter, and what we do matters, and that's part of spirituality for me too. And I think that is the message from God as well, to show us that we all need each other, and we need to work together as a collective for each other.
I just wanted to ask you, this isn't part of it, but are you returning to Catholicism or no, or just finding your own way?
No, I'm non-denominational, but I actually, during the pandemic, I did the entire month of Ramadan. I'm not Muslim, but I thought it was a great experience to just to be stripped of the basic essential water and food from dawn to sunset. And it was such a good time to reflect and just sacrifice. I thought it was amazing, and I will definitely do it again. So I'm really open, and I take what I love and learn from different religions, and I think that's my path. I don't find one to be the one and be all. Whatever is good from each, I'd love to learn and take on, soak in.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. We've covered a lot of what we wanted to talk about, but I just wanted to ask you, apropos of sports itself, what would you like to see, both in college and professional? I know that professional athletes now, especially in football, have an opportunity to change things a lot, and maybe all athletes do. So just let me hear your thoughts on what kind of changes you think might be good, and what, as athletes, you might do to accomplish those changes.
I'll go ahead. And I think just maybe a simplistic answer, but I think just changing more so the narrative and understanding who we are as athletes and professional athletes, and what that means as far as the Black community, especially because we are the majority, and we dominate that field. And I think as a Black athlete myself, and understanding that hey, we dominate this field, and a lot of kids look up to us because they see us and they see themselves, and they say to themselves, I can be that. And I think just understanding that we hold that privilege and how big that is for our community, and not just for our community and the Black community, but kids in general, just understand what it means to be an athlete, a professional athlete, because social injustices and just social life in general. And athletics, they are huge in just American culture. And I think people downplay that a lot. They kind of think it's like a two-sided argument to where it's like, well, you're just an athlete, and then, well, you are an athlete, and that's saying something, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I think just changing that narrative to where it is, yes, I am an athlete. I have a platform. I have the power to change things, because what I am, it means something in our culture and in our world. And I'm going to use that for good and for better. I think just being able, going forward, the change that we can make is understanding the power that we hold as athletes and not letting anything suffocate or deafen that, but using it to for all of its power and the right that it has, and using it for good. I think that's the biggest change that should be held, and just going forward and just understanding that I'm more than an athlete. I know people hear that a lot, but that it truly means something. It's truly riveting, just to be able to know, it's be who I am. And when I'm out and I'm training, the kids see me and they know who I am, and they come up to me. And I remember being that kid and seeing someone who was in my position, and how much that meant to me, just seeing that it's real, seeing that person, and understanding the impact I can have on their life just by giving them insight or giving them hope, just by them seeing me, and using that for what it is. I think that's the biggest change going forward. And I think just using our voices for what they are and what they mean in this world, and letting that voice not be so much confined just to athletics, but confined to everything, politics and anything, any space, because it has the power to immerse in all those things, because we all love sports at the end of the day. And it's a huge part of our culture. So I think just being able to use our platforms for what they truly are, and the power that they truly inhibit, and letting it be used for good. I think that would be the biggest change I would like to see. And I think that we're heading in that direction. So, yeah.
So you recognizing that you have the power, you have the right, and you have the responsibility actually to do all of
Exactly. Yeah. Because you get a lot of times in instances in places where people think, well, I am just an athlete. And I think it can no longer be that way. You can no longer just be a guy who just dribbles a ball or catches one or does this and that, and that's it. I get everybody has their own private lives and things but I think, just like you said, Joe, I think understanding the responsibility of it, I think is huge. And I think that should be the change necessarily, where we can look within ourselves, as Isabella was just saying previously and prior, like where can we be better within ourselves so we can help others. And I think just understanding who we are as athletes and the responsibility that comes with that, and taking full advantage of it. I think that's the biggest change I think we should adhere to seeing happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And as a PR person, and you guys all seeing how brands are now speaking out on topics that we're used to seeing as taboo topics, I think us as athletes now being able to speak out on those topics that are dear to our hearts, and where we used to feel confined because we're representing a larger entity, such as you guys with the NFL, or us when we used to represent Cal. Like when there were protests at Cal, we were told by our coaches not to go because we shouldn't be affiliated, we shouldn't voice ourselves, because we're representing another entity, which is understandable. But for a cause that's good, and for something that important, I think we now should learn that we shouldn't hold our tongues for causes that are super important for us to evolve and to do better and be better. And how Jordan says, if we have the platform, we have the mandate to do that. And I think that's super important. And we see this going into the right direction as well, with brands and exposing others on social media, and just being a part of the movement and not letting anything stop us to do so.
Something I would like to see changed or implemented in football and basketball too, or predominantly Black sports, is like more representation in, like, as in head coaches or these NFL owners. These are sports that, we help make a lot of money in, and I would like to see more of those type of people in the higher ups in those positions. And LeBron James, he's somebody who's speaking out about these things, and he's also someone who's probably going to be the first one. You see Michael Jordan, he has a team, but LeBron, he's really into speaking out. And Michael Jordan was actually talked down upon because while he was playing, he wasn't using his platform to speak up and say what his thoughts on, injustice and things like that. And he was talked down on it because he wasn't using his platform. And like both of you guys were saying, it's important to speak up when you have the chance. And but yeah, that's something I would like to see change and implement it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there should be more inclusiveness, especially between races in the NFL, the NBA, and all things, especially in ownership and just in key decision making. And I think that'll come with time. And I think there's something that these times are addressing, and it's very prevalent, and we see it, and it's not so necessarily something that's just going to be swept under the rug much longer. So I think that as it goes and we go, and I think just to be able to see the people who are in those positions now, even though we don't have a lot, but just to see them and how they do take heed to that responsibility. You know, we have great coaches in the NFL, the Mike Tomlins and the Tony Dungys, the guys who have been head black coaches, and the Lovie Smiths, and have dominated that field and won, and been more so not just football coaches that are great, but great men. And just being able to see those guys take those, you know, those opportunities and take full advantage of them. And, you know, were very responsible when it came to having those positions, just being a great representation for our people. And I think just going forward, I think all of those things will grow, because we've had men who have came and been in those positions and who have taken full advantage of them. But I agree with Elijah on that. I think that's another thing that we should be I would love to see change, is a better representation of people of all cultures in these places, in these higher up positions. Because at the end of the day, you know, when you go to a football locker room, yes, we may be the majority, but it is still a big melting pot of cultures. And in that locker room, we're able to immerse with each other. I can't even tell you how easy it is for me to go into a locker room and be teammates with someone, because it's just second nature to me and guys like Elijah. Because even since like probably Pop Warner, Pee Wee football, that, you know, we all have that same similarity and that love that we have for the game. So everything else kind of goes out the window, you know. And so that's our safe haven, being able to just be in the locker room, because it don't really matter, because that's just how we are, and we love each other, and that's just what we do going forward. It's kind of something hard to explain, because it's really indescribable as far as how easy it is when you immerse yourself into a locker room. So I think just going forward, all of those things, I would like to see that change, and having that same camaraderie as we do in the locker room, but having that same inclusion as well in the higher up position. So I agree with Elijah.
I'm so glad to hear that it's like that now in locker rooms. That's something I didn't know about. That team, you know, that team spirit is something that is so cohesive now, and not separate, and not as divisive as it might have been in the past. And I don't really know, because I'm not in sports. But, you know, guys are speaking, and all of a sudden you know, I had this image of Ali, you know, as a person who, Muhammad Ali, as a person who spoke up and refused to do something that he thought was wrong. And that was it's difficult to do sometimes, I think. And I just want to thank you so much for being open and so able to help me understand things. I think that's really great. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation go forward, and to hear you all talk and your careers, and the positiveness that you have about this present moment and looking forward. So just thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
It's great. Thank you.
So Maria, our fearless leader, come on in and wrap it up for us. Also, another shout out to Chloe Hewlett, who I think you mentioned earlier. Bella is a great a model, and for me as well as you guys. So, Maria, thank you for making this possible and coming up with the idea. So, take us on home.
I want to thank you guys again for an amazing discussion. Thank you to Joe for your time and your willingness to talk about these complex topics with us. Please visit CAA's website for updates, and stay tuned for the next edition of the Who Are We Now series.